Hey everybody, welcome back to the Triple Play Performance Podcast. It's Dr. Mike. We have a special guest. We have Catherine Arnston calling in from the East Coast. She notified me that she's from Boston. You know, me being a New York Yankees fan, we have a long history with the Boston Red Sox.
The rivalry continues.
The rivalry continues, yeah.
It's a friendly rivalry. Hey.
Yeah. And we're recording this on April 1st, which is opening day for Major League Baseball.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
I know, right? And her company is Energy Bits, and we're going to talk all about that today. Welcome to the show, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Doc. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
How did you get involved? Like, how does one get involved with this? And tell us all about that stuff.
Sure. Well, for those who don't know what Energy Bits is, we sell algae in small tablet form. Spirulina and chlorella are the two that we're going to talk about that we sell. And some of you may be familiar with spirulina. A lot fewer are familiar with chlorella, but they are both algae. And I chuckle when I talk to people about what I do because they think, oh, algae, isn't it that pond scum? Isn't it the stuff that floats on my swimming pool or messes up my beach? And well, yes, it is that too. But the type that we're going to be talking about are harvested as food crops. They're an agricultural crop. They're grown in fresh water and carefully managed and monitored because they're food. We call our algae tablets bits because they're bits of food. So how did I get into this whole algae thing, right? Well, I didn't grow up deciding that I wanted to be an algae expert. Trust me. In fact, I didn't even go out looking for algae. It found me. I do live in Boston, as Mike mentioned, but I'm Canadian, and I've lived here 30 years. But I mentioned the Canadian thing because I have an MBA, and I was doing international business. And then 12 years ago, my younger sister in Canada developed breast cancer. Now, she's completely fine. She's cancer-free, 10 years cancer-free. So I just want to assure everyone of that. But when she was preparing for her chemotherapy, her oncologist, who is a cancer specialist, advised her that she should change her diet to an alkaline diet because it would help with her healing.
Sure.
Now, they didn't tell her what an alkaline diet was or why it was good for her. So the first thing she did when she got home was call me because I'm her big sister, and of course I love her. And she said, what is this alkaline diet thing? And of course I knew nothing about nutrition or the body because I was a business person. But I'm a very good researcher. And I said, I have no idea what this stuff is, but we will find out and I will help you. So it turns out an alkaline diet was predominantly a plant-based diet because of all the chlorophyll and the phytonutrients that have been proven to build your immune system. And we can talk about the immune system a bit today as well, because obviously with COVID still around, we want to have a strong immune system. So I found out that it was mostly a plant-based diet. So she changed her diet. She did go through her chemo. She maintained her alkaline diet to this day, and she's 10 years cancer-free. Now, in the process of researching foods for her, I started learning about the power of plant-based nutrition. And, this is 12 years ago. Nobody was talking about it 12 years ago.
No.
And I thought, wow, this is pretty powerful stuff. Somebody should share this knowledge. And I had no background, but I just thought, I felt compelled. I thought, okay, I'm going to do something. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to do something. So I gave up my 25-year corporate career. I went back to school, studied nutrition at a place called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I graduated with a health coaching certificate. And I thought, well, now what? So I put my own curriculum together and I taught plant-based nutrition at corporations and hospitals. And I'm sorry this is such a long-winded story, but it does explain how I ended up with algae, because it was just one of many things I found for my sister. And it didn't really dazzle me any more than anything else did. But so what happened was, when I was teaching people at these companies about the importance of eating more vegetables and eating more greens, this is when my epiphany happened that truly led me to algae. And the epiphany is this, and I'm sure your listeners will appreciate this. Telling people that they need to eat more vegetables is nothing new. I mean, we've been told that by our mothers since we were kids, right?
Exactly.
So I wasn't telling them anything that they weren't already aware of. But what I realized is that there were just too many obstacles that were preventing people from accomplishing this. Often you don't live near a grocery store, or maybe the one that you do live near doesn't have very good produce, or vegetables, let's face it, they take up a lot of room in your fridge. They take a lot of time to clean, to cook, to eat. And so, or maybe your husband doesn't like them, or your kids won't eat them. So you throw out a lot of stuff. So I thought, okay, I know what green plant-based nutrition does for people's health in terms of keeping them healthy or restoring health.
Yeah.
But if they're having too much difficulty getting, eating it, I need to find a way that's faster, easier for them to do that. So back to the drawing board I went, and I just did a deeper dive on everything I had found for my sister, and nothing was working. And then boom, I got to algae. And that's when the miracle happened. Because it turns out that algae is the most alkaline food in the world, and that's what started this whole thing. We can talk about that, what the alkaline diet is and why it's so important for you. Turns out algae has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world. Chlorophyll is what makes plants green. It has 1,000 times more chlorophyll than Chinese greens, 250 times more than spinach, so very high in the chlorophyll, and that's important. That's probably the most important thing about greens. It's the most nutrient-dense food in the world. NASA's been feeding it to the astronauts for 50 years, and we have a quote from NASA that says, 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits and vegetables. I'm going to say that again, just so you can understand the power of that. 1 gram equals 1,000 grams of vegetables, and we'll talk about that, because when each of our little tiny tablets that are about the size of a baby aspirin have the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. Now remember, that's an entire plate of vegetables that you didn't have to drag home from the grocery store, put in your fridge, clean, cook, or eat. 1 tablet, boom. Also, algae's been used for over 50 years in Asia. In Japan, they don't take vitamins. They only take chlorella algae that we're going to talk about. And it's the most studied food in the world. There's 100,000 studies documenting all of the benefits we're going to talk about today and more. So it's on a solid scientific foundation. The trouble is the scientists only like to talk to other scientists. So they don't know how to talk to us mortals, mere mortals. And so that's what I've done. I've gone into all the science and made it understandable for, consumers or even doctors. So when I learned all about this, about algae, how it was so nutrient rich, used for 50 years, actually thousands of years, scientifically documented, it turned out the only problem with algae is that nobody in America knew about it, and also the quality had been poor. Most of it had come from China. So I decided I was going to spend the rest of my life helping people understand what algae is, why it's so important for us, why it's probably our last shot at getting proper nutrition, and in a way that's fast and easy for you to do. So there are no more excuses. Any guys who are listening, if you hate vegetables, this is your answer. In 2 seconds, just pop a few of these tablets down. You have met all of your green nutrition needs. It has I forgot to mention, it has the highest concentration of protein in the world, 3 times the amount of protein as steak. And it's been endorsed by the United Nations since 1974 as the answer to world hunger because of that. So get on the algae train. You're going to learn a lot about it today, but I encourage you to learn a little bit more, do your own research, because algae is actually everywhere. And it's the most eco-friendly, sustainable crop in the world. And since Earth Day is coming up,
it is, yes.
I'm proud to point out that algae is the most sustainable crop in the world, and will help restore not only your own personal health, but the health of the world. So I have a big mission, but I'm 11 years in, and I got at least another 11 years to go. So
you said that this is our last shot at getting good nutrition. What do you mean by that?
Well, the reality is the food that we eat these days looks nothing like what our grandparents ate 50 years ago. And the reason is this: our soils are so monocropped. They plant the same things in the same soil every year, and so there are no nutrients left in the soils for the plants to pull up, and that's why they use all these glyphosate and other terrible pesticides, which of course get into our bodies. So the soils are deprived, which means the foods don't have the same nutrients. The other problem is our vegetables in many cases are grown far away now, so that they are harvested before they're even ripe, and so the nutrient value is deteriorated because it hasn't fully formed, and then it's put in warehouses for weeks, and then it sits in the grocery store for weeks, and so by the time you cook it, there's not much nutrition left in it. And thirdly, the ozone layer has been deteriorating, and they've done studies to show that all the plants now have more sugar in them and fewer nutrients and less protein. So you put all that together, you're eating fiber and you're getting calories, but you are not getting the nutrients. And the two reasons why people get sick, all of our chronic diseases, whether it's heart disease, diabetes, obesity, doesn't matter what it is, even COVID, is mainly for two reasons. We aren't getting the nutrients that our body requires to perform optimally, and we are full of toxins. Of course, there's other lifestyle issues like not enough exercise and not enough sleep and too much stress. But on the nutritional level, too many toxins and not enough nutrition. And as you're going to find out, algae does both of those things. It fills every single nutritional gap, and it pulls out toxins. So, ta-da!
So where are you sourcing this from?
Well, we get ours from Taiwan. Taiwan is world renowned for having the highest quality algae in the world. We grow both our spirulina and chlorella there. Algae there is some spirulina grown in Hawaii, I will mention, but it's actually and you would think that because algae is grown in fresh water, everything that is on the shelves at whether it's Costco or ours are harvested in fresh water. So you think, well, it's got to be the same everywhere, but it's actually not. It's like wine. You can have a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, which tastes completely different from a Sauvignon Blanc from California. So depending on where the country is, where the algae is grown, it does have a different flavor, different kinds of consistencies of nutrients. And so I'm not going to bash the Hawaiian spirulina, but it does tend to be milder in terms of the nutrient value. For whatever reason, Taiwan seems to, maybe it's the where it's located geographically. I honestly don't know, but I do know that we and the company that grows it for us are well known for the highest standards. We grow ours in triple filtered spring mountain water. That's important because algae will absorb whatever is in the water. That's why we don't want you going to your local swimming pool or ocean and just hauling some algae out and because you just don't know what's in that stuff, and that's quite likely be toxic. But when you grow it as carefully as we do, and then we air dry it, we don't use high heat. Most of the bigger companies that have high volume orders use high heat because they need to get the product to market quickly. We're a high value, not a high volume company, so we don't use high heat to dry ours. And the reason why that's important is it protects the enzymes and the nutrition and the nutrients. So our spirulina, for example, both of our algae are raw, but spirulina is considered a live food. It would actually just start growing again if you put it in water. And then we don't put any binders or fillers or anything when we press the water out into these little tablets. So it's as pure as a food as you can get, no processing. So it's truly food. It is food. It's like kale or broccoli. And your body, we come from nature. So when you eat food, your body recognizes the nutrients in food because, if you're not a nutritionist, you wouldn't know this, but there's lots of other things in food beside your macro and micronutrients. There's things like enzymes and coenzymes and things called factors and cofactors. And so when you take vitamins, those are just extracts that are mashed together with heat in a factory. And so when you take a vitamin, your body doesn't really know what to do with all those things because they don't exist like that in nature. And that's why those numbers on your vitamin bottles, by the way, are so high, because then the vitamin companies know that you're only going to absorb about 5 or 10% of it. So, but when you eat food of any kind, including algae, because it is food, you will absorb 99% of the nutrition. It's what I call efficient nutrition. So that's the other reason why it's the last shot. If the soils and the foods chain is so damaged, and people are over consuming processed white stuff. And if our supplements are fake and not absorbable, that's not the answer either. So I feel that algae, I've decided I'm calling it your nutritional insurance, because when you take algae every day, you are giving your body all the nutrients it needs to perform optimally. And then after that, you can eat for entertainment, do whatever you want, because you've at least had the protection of having the nutrition that you need. And if you take enough of it, we'll be pulling the toxins out as well. So
you mentioned something that's on everybody's radar right now. You know, we're coming out of 2020 into 2021, and everybody is concerned about COVID-19, coronavirus. So where and how does algae play a role in supporting the immune system in all of this?
Oh, great question. And hopefully I have a great answer. Well, I do have a great answer.
You do, right?
I tell people I'm just in love with algae. In fact, I was on Shark Tank a few years ago, and Mark Cuban accused me of not loving being an entrepreneur and just being in love with algae. And I said, well, if you knew
about that.
Yeah. I said, well, if you knew as much about algae, you'd be in love with it too. But but back to the immune system. Well, first, I'm going to help people understand what the immune system is, because if you don't know what it is, you don't know how to support it so that it can defend you. So your immune system is broken into two pieces, two components, or at least this is how I've defined it. The first one is I call it your surveillance system. You know, at your house, you might have a camera system set up to identify intruders or invaders. Well, your body's the same way. And it uses your skin, your mouth, your nose, your lungs. These are what's in most cases called mucosal surfaces. And this is where the alarms go off if an invader has come in, whether it's a bacteria or, in this case, a virus. So that's number one. Your skin, your mouth, your nose, your lungs, your gut identifies when your immune system, when somebody or something that shouldn't be there is now there. That then triggers part two of your immune system, which I make the analogy as to being the equivalent of your police force or your bodyguard if you were a celebrity, because that's then is triggered to basically take down, identify, chase after, and take down and remove the invader. So now your skin, your mouth, your nose, your stomach, those are things that you can point to and see on a medical book. But what I'm going to tell you about next is the more important part of your immune system, and the difficulty with it for people to understand is that you can't see it. What it is our cells that are made in your gut by the bacteria in your gut. And these cells have names that you've probably heard of, things like T cells, B cells, killer cells, macrophages, white blood cells. These are all the cells that they are the equivalent of your police force. They go after whatever has been invading your body, in this case a virus, and kills it, removes it, and remembers it, so that if it happens again, it will be even that much more efficient. But here's the rub. In order for that police force in your gut to work properly, you have to give it the ammunition that it needs. Like you wouldn't expect the police force to arrive with blindfolds on, right? So your body's the same way. It cannot make those T cells, B cells, killer cells, whatever, to defend you unless you give it what it needs. And what it needs are particular nutrients, which it finds in your stomach. And it's your job to put them in your stomach. It can't do it if they're not there. And some of these nutrients are things that you probably are familiar with, B3 and amino acids and zinc, chlorophyll for sure. These and the other analogy I make is, I tell people, well, if you're going to have a dinner party, what's the first thing that you do other than cleaning up, of course? You go grocery shopping, because if you don't have the food, you don't have a dinner party. Well, if you don't have the proper nutrition in your gut, your immune system can't go shopping for all those nutrients it needs to defend you. So what I love about the algae is that it has basically 99% of those nutrients that your immune system needs to cook up all those T cells, B cells, killer cells to defend you. And if you have a strong immune system, I don't want to underplay this, but you should not be worried really about COVID, because if you do get it, it will pass through your system, relatively easily. 99.9% of people who get COVID are fine. It's the people that already have a pre-existing condition or who are elderly, and they're finding that things like immune, if they have an insulin resistance issue, that seems to be related to the COVID death rates. And so here's the thing about COVID: it's all disease, whether it's cancer or COVID, is acidic. And this kind of gets back to what got my sister's doctor telling her to have an alkaline diet. And so when you have something that's acidic, and in this case, the COVID virus is particularly dangerous because it goes into it's not just a respiratory disease, it's a blood disease. And it not only damages your lungs, but it goes into your blood and it kicks out the iron atom in your blood and inserts itself.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that so important? Iron is what carries oxygen in your blood. So if you don't have any iron in your blood, you don't have any oxygen in your blood. And so that's what's happening. The virus goes in, kicks out the iron atom. Now the blood circulating has no oxygen. This is why people are dying from heart disease or from heart attacks, because that's the main organ that keeps your body alive, and it cannot survive without oxygen. So it's not just a respiratory disease; it's a blood disease. And so algae is the most alkaline food in the world, and it has the highest concentration of iron in the world. So I like to think that if you are losing the iron in your blood and the COVID, because it's the other thing I mentioned, I wanted to point out as I started to, it's acidic. And Mother Nature is so clever. When she built us, in our hemoglobin, there's a negative charge around your hemoglobin, so that your blood, which has got that iron atom in it, can move carefully and easily through your blood. Now, if you've ever held magnets up together, you know how they repel one another. And that's what this negative charge on your blood, hemoglobin does. It keeps them repelling one another so they can move easily. But when there's something like the COVID virus that is acidic, gets into your blood, it strips off that negative charge, and now your blood clumps. This has two effects. It makes it even more difficult to carry the iron, which means it can't carry oxygen, and they clump, which cause heart attacks. And they're finding that when they go into all the biopsies of people who have passed from COVID, they're finding blood clumps everywhere. No surprise to me, because that's what the COVID does. It damages the negative charge on your blood and changes the pH of your blood, which should be at 7.34. So again, algae can help with that, I believe. And because it's been used and studied and documented for decades for building the immune system, even if you do have COVID, it would be the first thing I would be taking, let me tell you, to get healthy. By the way, and I'll point this out, and again, I will only say things that are documented in the NIH library, and you can find more research about this on our website. They have found, we're going to talk about the two algae. One is spirulina, which is a blue-green algae because it has two pigments, and chlorella is a green algae which has just the one pigment, which is chlorophyll. But the spirulina, that blue pigment, it has a long name, so I apologize, and it's called phycocyanin, Phycocyanin. Anyways, the scientists have found that phycocyanin has this remarkable superpower. It acts as a shield that prevents the virus from entering your cells. Do you frigging believe it? And this is all documented, because what they're finding is the virus enters your body through something called an ACE2 receptor cell.
Right.
And so the spirulina, this blue-green this pigment called phycocyanin, for whatever reason, it sits on top of that receptor cell and prevents the virus from getting in. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And here's the other amazing thing is that those ACE2 receptor cells, I know it's a lot of jargon and I do apologize, but I want people to know that this is truly science-based, and you can go online to research this. Guess where most of those ACE2 receptor cells are? Well, They're in your nose, your lungs, your throat, exactly where the virus enters your body, right? And if you had any doubt about it, I read recently about the University of Pittsburgh, the School of Pharmacology, have developed a nose spray to prevent the COVID virus.
Yes.
And guess what the nose spray is made of?
Yes.
Yep, algae, because it has this ability to intercept the absorption or entry of the virus. So I tell you, are you starting to see why I love algae so much?
Yeah, it's so interesting and frustrating at the same time that the narrative excludes everything that you've been talking about, all the stuff that I see that's being published. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of research papers coming out, over the last year or so, right? That's looking at all of this, the findings of what they're seeing, how the virus works in our body, and then how the body responds, and then also these things that you've just mentioned. But we don't hear about that, right? We don't hear about any of that stuff.
Well, the virus has turned into has a political agenda, or so it appears. And the truth is, more people die from the flu every year than has ever died from COVID. The thing that makes COVID a little different, and maybe why it should get a little attention, but certainly not as much as it has, is that it gets transmitted very, very easily, and it moves very quickly to a situation of morbidity very quickly. Those are the only two things. But 99.9% of people will either never get it, or if they get it, it'll be no different than if you had the flu or the cold. And the governments of the world have conspired, I believe, to turn this into a huge political issue. I don't want to get political, but I'll tell you, I'm not getting a vaccination because I don't need one. I take algae every day, so I'm covered. But I certainly hope we don't get into this requirement of having a vaccination passport, because that's Big Daddy controlling the world, and that has me very, very worried. I don't know where I'll go to hide if that happens, because I'm not going to get one. I'll be quite happy to get COVID tests. I get them all the time. I've never had it. I'm always negative, but I don't want people to be so afraid. It's so unfortunate. We've turned our world into a place where people are so afraid to get close to you.
Yeah.
And it's emotionally, psychologically damaging to not be able to show interest in one another, comfort one another, love one another. That's not the world I want to be part of. I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's just been so, like I said, frustrating just to see the attention that's been given to only certain things, right? As far as what we consider treatment. It's been frustrating to see a lot of the medical professionals out there not being able to speak freely about what they're finding, whether it's frontline nurses, ER doctors. It's frustrating because, a lot of, being that it's a novel virus, being that, we don't have any treatment protocols that's set in stone. Everybody's just trying to, it's this trial and error kind of thing. Right. And here we are saying, okay, we're not going to accept that. We're not going to talk about this. The only things that we're going to talk about is masks, social distancing, and vaccines. We're not going to talk about metabolic flexibility. We're not going to talk about insulin resistance. We're not going to talk about nutrition. All of those things are going to be banned from, different places like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, I get banned from certain things that I post on Instagram, and it has nothing to do with, fringe science. I'm posting papers that was published, and you're right. There is this political issue that's been going on, with all of that. But I think, we need to speak more about like what you're talking about.
Yeah,
What are the things that we can do to, support the body?
yeah. Well, they're finding this, as you mentioned, this metabolic insulin resistance issue is very closely tied to the morbidity rates from COVID. And it all comes back to what you put in your body. It's, as much as we want to point the finger at somebody else or take a drug or go to the doctor and ask them to make you feel better. Sure, they can make you feel better with a drug, but then they'll have all these other side effects. The harsh reality, whether anybody wants to acknowledge it or not, is that each one of us is responsible for our own health.
Yeah.
We are responsible. And so we need to inform and educate ourselves and take responsibility. Don't, every time you buy a Coke or a donut, you are empowering the company that made that to continue making them. If you stop buying them, then stop eating them and start eating something healthier, you won't be, it's almost like you're being drugged by the food companies, because your brain doesn't function properly when it doesn't have the proper nutrients. We can backpedal. You individually can backpedal whatever situation you are finding yourself in. You just need to make some baby steps to start giving your body what it needs. And just as an example, we were recently invited to be part of a TV series that just wrapped up filming called Reversed. And what they did was they took a number of people who had diabetes too, and for a month, and they fed them a keto diet, algae, and made them exercise. And there were some really big names like Dr. Jason Fung involved and Dr. Ken Berry. That will be airing this summer. It's the second season they've done it. So, I've just mentioned that because it's one of many, many examples where people's health is being restored strictly by their activities, including their nutrition and their exercise. And if you aren't exercising, even just taking a 10-minute walk, every single, extra little tiny step that you make is a step in the right direction. And that's one of the reasons why I like algae so much, is because we're not asking you to change everything. We're just asking you to add one small little tiny tablet, a couple of them, just swallow 3 or 4 or 5 or 10. And I do want to go into what the different benefits are of the 2 algae, but just adding them, even if you don't change anything else, that alone will start improving your health, your metabolic condition, your energy, your focus, removing toxins. So it's the simplest gesture that you can make for yourself to get yourself back on track.
Yeah. So, jumping off of that, you guys have a few different versions, right? You have specific ones for recovery, energy, even skin, right?
Yeah.
I gotta mention the skin part, because we got a lot of women listening to this, and they're excited about keeping their youthful looks.
Yeah, absolutely, as we should.
how explain the different ones, how to utilize it, and all that.
Sure. Well, we actually there's only 2 types of algae. One, as I mentioned, is called spirulina, and the other one is called chlorella. Now, spirulina has been known for providing energy. In fact, when we first started, we became a sports nutrition product because the athletes, the triathletes, the marathon runners, the Olympic athletes found out about us because spirulina gives you energy mentally and physically. Partly because it has the highest concentration of protein in the world. The protein's all in amino acids, so your body doesn't have to do any work to break down, get access to them. Then it's also loaded with B vitamins, which are what convert the aminos into glucose and energy, and also loaded with iron, which carries oxygen, which we've already mentioned. It's a vasodilator, which opens up your blood vessels. It's loaded with omega-3, which is really great for your brain and reducing inflammation. It has boron, which helps with your thought process, and has 40 other vitamins and minerals, all the electrolytes. So spirulina is known as being an energizing algae. So we have our first brand of spirulina was called Energy Bits, and you can buy those on our website, Energy Bits, because we thought that was easier to say than spirulina. But it turned out that women weren't attracted to the blue packaging and the name, and because it also, the high protein and all the antioxidants build your skin and hair. And I want to make sure women are comfortable with our products, because I started this because of my sister. So I made a second brand of spirulina, and it's called Beauty Bits. It's pink. It's gorgeous. I design all the packaging. And so,
I must commend you on that. That was the first thing that I noticed. I'm like,
thank you. Thank you.
Packaging.
I'm very proud of our packaging, because I just want people to feel as comfortable, as excited about the packaging as, because once they get the algae in them, trust me, it's going to do great things for you. So someone said, oh, you've got a boy spirulina and a girl spirulina. And pretty much, yeah, that's about it. But they do exactly the same things. Now, the other cool thing about spirulina is that high amount of protein and essential fatty acids satisfy your hunger. So, and they're ketogenic, so they do not reduce your ketones or increase your glucose. So a lot of people use them for intermittent fasting, because they don't they don't interrupt your fast. So you get up in the morning, you have your coffee, your tea, throw back, 5 or 10 tablets. You won't be hungry for hours. And there's only 1 calorie per tablet. What else can you eat over 10 calories or 5 calories if you only had 5? That will satisfy your hunger for hours and give you all the nutrition that you need. It's just, there's nothing in the world that does that. So someone called, I was on a podcast recently with a couple of women, and they said, we're going to call them magic bits.
I love it.
This is like magic, your hunger's gone, skin is clear, it really is magic. So that's spirulina, energizing, satisfies your hunger, great for your skin and hair. The other algae is called chlorella. I know that's a mouthful. And just like spirulina has the highest protein in the world, chlorella has the highest chlorophyll in the world. That's why it's called chlorella. Now, what's so important about chlorella? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it builds your immune system. But what is also very cool is that the chemical composition of chlorophyll is virtually identical to the chemical composition of your blood. And you can go online. We'll send you some articles that you can post with the notes. So chlorophyll builds your blood. And in fact, up until until World War II, and even during World War II, when they ran out of blood for transfusions, they would give the injured liquid chlorophyll, because it would build their blood and they would heal just as fast as if they'd had a blood transfusion. Pretty sweet. So there is nothing in the world that has more chlorophyll than chlorella. And chlorophyll is a fat-based pigment, and the reason why that's important is because all of your health issues start at the cellular level, all the good ones and the bad ones.
Exactly.
So the key to keeping your mitochondria and your cells healthy is to ensure that nutrients can get in and toxins can get out. And you've got to have healthy cell walls to do that, and you need healthy fats to do that. So chlorophyll, because it's a fat-based pigment, does that. And the best analogy I've come up with to help people to understand this is, when you have dirty windows, you can't see out and sunlight can't get in. So I tell people, just think of chlorophyll as window washers for your cell walls. Just keeps everything looking and working great. So that's what keeps your body clean and healthy. So the chlorophyll, combined with the fact that the chlorella has the hardest cell wall in the plant kingdom, spirulina has none. Chlorella has the hardest, and that cell wall attaches to toxins. This is where the rubber hits the road, because we're all full of toxins. It pulls out lead, mercury, radiation. By the way, it also pulls out aluminum. And there's aluminum on almost all vaccines. So if you're getting a vaccine, be sure you get some chlorella algae afterwards to pull it out. So chlorella, because of the chlorophyll, the ability to pull out toxins. Oh, it also pulls out alcohol. It identifies alcohol as a toxin. Athletes use it because it pulls out lactic acid. So we call our chlorella recovery bits, because it helps you recover from your day, or recover from drinking, or recover from being sick, or recover from sports. And it's a lot easier to say and to spell than chlorella. So most people take their spirulina in the morning and the afternoon, because that's when you're hungry or tired or before a workout. And then we encourage you to take the chlorella, the recovery bits, at night, because that's when maybe you've had a busy day, a little stress or alcohol or whatever. And here's the other interesting thing. When you sleep, your body goes through a detox and repair cycle. So if you have chlorella in your body while it's doing that, it will be a much better detox. You may not know this, but when you get into a deep sleep, your brain shrinks a little bit, and your brain has its own little lymphatic system. And so it's like having the street washers in there, cleaning up all the gunk and getting rid of all that plaque. So if you have chlorella in your body, it will facilitate that. And we want to protect you from Alzheimer's and all that other sort of good stuff. And also, it stimulates peristalsis, also known as bowel movements. And hey, getting rid of all that gunk is that you don't need is as important as what you do want to keep. So they work completely differently in your body. I will admit the spirulina does not taste very good, so most people swallow it or put it in smoothies. The chlorella is drier and tastes more like a sunflower seed or a soy nut. And I eat mine all day long with sea salt or macadamia nuts or almonds. It's my favorite snack of the day. And just to prove to you how great this stuff is, and there's no upper limit because it's food. I probably have at least 100 chlorella tablets a day, at least, and have had that much every day for the last 11 years. So, I'm feeling pretty great, let me tell you. I sleep great. All my bowel movements are great. Sorry, that's probably too much information. My skin is great because also algae has what's called vitamin K2 in it. It's very difficult to find K2 in any food source. It's only in grass-fed animal protein or a dish called natto, which is very prevalent in Japan, but it's also in the algae. And what K2 does is it pulls excess calcium out of soft tissue and moves it into your bones. And why is that important? Well, they're finding out that 50% of heart disease is caused by what's known as arteriosclerosis, the hardening of your arteries. Mm-hmm. Well, I tell people, well, guess what's hardening? Calcium, because we take D3 and we take calcium supplements, and there's way too much calcium in our bodies, and it gets lodged in what's known as soft tissue, like your blood vessels, your skin, ladies. It gets into your skin and attacks your elastin. Yeah. That's what causes wrinkles when your elastin gets damaged. It's the scaffolding that keeps your skin up, and so when you damage the scaffolding, that's what leads to wrinkles. So you want to get rid of the calcium in your skin to prevent any wrinkles. And I don't have any wrinkles. And I'll tell you, you can't see me, but I'm almost 65 and I have no wrinkles. Like, seriously, Yes,
I can attest to that.
You can see me, right? And I don't have any makeup on. I don't wear any makeup, nothing.
That's awesome.
So the K2 is a very important nutrient, and it is found naturally in the algae, twice as much in the chlorella as in the spirulina. By the way, while we're talking about beauty, I'd like to mention that the last 5 or 6 years, collagen has become very well known, and I'm very grateful to Vital Proteins. They're the company that really took collagen on and helped educate people, and they're found everywhere. But algae has the same amount of protein as collagen, plus collagen powder, plus it has 40 other vitamins and minerals and chlorophyll. So if you like taking collagen, up your game and take algae instead. By the way, do you know what collagen is made of? Crushed up animal bones. That's what, do you want crushed up animal bones? I don't know. I would go for algae, which is a sustainable crop, instead. Save the fish or whatever. But
yeah, and that's a very important, aspect. Sustainability.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. I mean, hey, Earth Day's coming up, and while we're talking about it, algae generates 200 times more protein per acre than cattle raising. It uses 20% less water, and also you can reuse the water because algae kills bacteria. You probably don't know this, but at almost every single city water treatment plant, certainly in North America, probably the world, uses algae.
Yes.
Because it kills bacteria.
Yes.
So it's already it's in our systems, but it's just aren't aware of it. Algae also it provides 80% of the oxygen on Earth. People think it's the Amazon rainforest. Nope, it's algae. And if you are a big fan of omega-3, which I am, but most people get it from fish oil, well, I tell people, where do you think the fish get the omega-3 from?
Yeah.
They get it from algae. And so we're getting too much overfishing. We're getting dead zones in the oceans because of the overfishing. So save the fish. And by the way, fish oil goes rancid after about a month. So save yourself.
Big issue. So what do you recommend people start with when they pick this up?
Yeah, well, I'm a big proponent on start small and test and see how you feel. So if you wanted to start even with 2 tablets, although probably 4 or 5 would give you a little bit more of a benefit, and see how you're feeling. If you're an athlete, you definitely want to take at least 10 or 15 before a run or a workout. And the kind of energy you'll get from spirulina, quite honestly, you might not even notice it because it's not like lightning bolts from the sky. There's no stimulants, there's no caffeine, chemicals, or sugar. But what you will feel is fresh. That's it. You'll feel alert and fresh. It feels pretty. Yeah, it's pretty good to me. So if you're not feeling that, then you aren't taking enough. So if you want to start with 2 or 3, that's great. Kids, it's great for kids too. Give them 1 or half of 1 for their age. So if they're 2, give them 1 or 2 a day. If they're 6, give them anywhere up to 3 a day. Pets love them too, by the way. And you can take either of them any time of day, but because they're just food. It's like having a snack. So start small. Don't worry. We fuel 5 or 6 NHL teams, and they put 75 spirulina, the energy bits, in their smoothie before a game, and they put 75 in their smoothie after the game because they wanted to pull out the lactic acid. So they're bigger users because they're pros and they're elite athletes. So and we work with Olympic athlete teams that they take it because not only, especially the chlorella, not only because it pulls out the lactic acid, but when you're in a team, you travel together, or you used to travel together. Yeah. And so if one person got sick or a cold, it would move through the whole team. So the chlorella, the recovery bits, keeps everybody healthy. So don't be afraid to take more. Like I said, I have 100 every day. If you get into the 30 a day level, which is, then you're becoming it becomes a main food for you. And I'll mention a couple of things. Number 1, you can eliminate almost all your other supplements when you're taking at least 15 or 20 a day, because you won't need a multivitamin, you won't need a fish oil, you won't need a CoQ10, magnesium, potassium, all those, you don't need them anymore, so you'll save yourself some money. You'll also notice you're eating fewer groceries because you're not as hungry, because there's so much protein in the spirulina. The chlorella, which is the one that helps you build your immune system, it will help you get off medications probably because your body is responding so well. Fewer doctor's visits, so that'll save you money. And don't be worried if your poop gets a little green, because that's the chlorophyll that's working through your body. I call it a badge of honor if your poop is green. Mine is.
Is this, I have to ask the question, is this safe for pregnant and nursing moms?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, I would urge pregnant and nursing moms to take them, particularly the spirulina, because it is loaded with an essential fatty acid called GLA, which stands for gamma-linolenic acid. And the only place that has more of it is mother's breast milk, because it is what helps the baby's brain develop after they're born. So by taking spirulina while you're pregnant and while you're nursing, you might end up birthing an Einstein. So and the chlorella helps pull out toxins. Yeah. Some people were worried initially, well, what if it pulls out toxins and they go into the baby? No, you're all the same unit. So it pulls toxins out from the baby as well, and also it kills bacteria, which helps with breastfeeding. So they're both really, really great. I will point out, however, chlorella, as I mentioned, is a detoxing algae. Spirulina is not. So if you were wondering about which one to start with, I would always start with spirulina because it's safe for newborns, octogenarians, pets, whatever. Chlorella, because it's detoxing, some people get detox symptoms, which can be a variety of things like breakouts or stomach distress, or and so if you are concerned about that, then at least get your body started with the spirulina. And the reason why I suggested starting with small amounts is because it circles back to the initial discussion, which is our food has no nutrition in it any longer. And because algae is so concentrated, your body is going to go, wow! So we don't want to frighten your cells too much. It's like being given a, pass to Universal or Disneyland and you're only expecting to go to the movies. Yeah. So we'd like you to take it, slow so that you can, don't get overwhelmed. And also for chlorella, because it pulls out toxins, there are often metals in a lot of medications. Yeah. So the only thing I would suggest is take the chlorella, which we call recovery bits, either 2 hours before or 2 hours after any medication that you're on. I don't have any scientific proof saying that it interferes, but I always like to err on caution. No worries about spirulina at all because it's not a detoxing algae. It's nourishing, but it's not detoxing. And if you have, like we sell on our website, I'm going to mention our website is energybits.com, ENERGYB for boy, ITS.com, energybits.com. And we have a 20% discount code for all of your listeners. When you just get into the shopping cart, you'll see a coupon box. Just type in Triple Play Doc, all one word, and you'll get 20% off. Now, I don't want people to have sticker shock when they come to our website because our bags of 1,000 tablets are normally $120. And with the discount, it brings it down to $96. But here's what I want you to know. We use that NASA quote that 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of vegetables. And so we've calculated that 1 bag of our algae tablets has the same nutrition as 551 pounds of vegetables.
Holy.
That at $3 a pound, or if it's organic, that would be like $1,600 worth of vegetables. But remember, that's 551 pounds of vegetables you didn't have to lug home from the grocery store, put in your fridge, clean, cook, or eat. So, and 1 tablet has the same nutrition as a heaping plate of vegetables. So it's very efficient nutrition. The other thing I'd like to mention is that we do put an expiry date on all the bags. It's usually 2 or 3 years, but it literally never goes bad. What vegetable never goes bad, right? I hardly eat any vegetables anymore because I eat so much algae, but it bothers me to throw out my wilted lettuce if I haven't gotten to it, or some moldy, tomatoes or something. And so your algae, you can keep that stuff for years. And in fact, we have lots of people who are what's called preppers. They think the end of the world is coming, so they stock up on 20 or 30 bags in case there's no food anywhere. Yeah. So when you come to, if you aren't prepared, you don't want to buy the full bag. We do have a sample pack with the 4 different brands. We have, again, the spirulina. There's 2 brands, Energy Bits and Beauty Bits, but they are exactly the same. Chlorella is the Recovery Bits, which is a green bag because it's a green algae. And we offer a 4th brand called Vitality Bits, which is a blend of the 2 algae. So it's 50% spirulina, 50% chlorella. But if you're not, so you can get a sample pack with a single serving of 30 tablets on the website, or you can also go to Amazon and buy them as single servings, try them out for $4 each, and then come back to the website and use your 20% discount Triple Play Doc.
That's awesome. Couple, parting words as we close this out. What are your top 3 to 5 things that you would recommend people to implement into their daily health routine?
Well, number one would be taking both spirulina and chlorella algae, spirulina in the morning, chlorella at night.
Yes, I do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's my first one. The other thing is, when you get up, so my routine, and I would recommend most of, or if not all of it, it's pretty simple. I start my day with a couple of glasses of fresh water with fresh squeezed lemon. It's the first thing I put into my body because lemon is very cleansing and it helps stimulate the liver. You want to keep that liver healthy because that's the thing that keeps it's the sanitation department for your body. So you want to keep it working. So the water lemon does that. I also do the intermittent fasting. So I don't put anything other than the algae tablets in my body. That's food until sort of noon or 1 o'clock-ish. So that gives your digestive tract a chance to rest and cleanse, and you might get some autophagy benefits from that. I also like to drink something, it's called yerba mate as a tea. I drink a lot of green tea, which has very high antioxidants. I don't really drink so much coffee anymore. Occasionally I do, but the yerba mate is thick and gives you some energy, so that's kind of cool. So that's sort of on the nutrition side, the algae, the water, and the lemon, and maybe some antioxidant green teas, and trying intermittent fasting to give your body a chance. Because sometimes people don't even remember what it is like to feel hungry. If you can start to learn to listen to the cues of your body when you're hungry, eat when you're hungry, and stop when you're not. And those are the two ones. And then the other thing I would suggest is walking. Walking is possible for everybody. It doesn't require any special equipment. It's been shown to give your body a sense of peace because of the rhythm. It clears your mind. And quite honestly, I used to do a lot of workouts. I'm trying to get back into it, but I've been so busy building the company. So walking has been a mainstay for me. If you do it in the morning, I try to do it in the morning to get it out of the way, but at least do some walking. Anything is better than nothing. And stretching too. If you're not going to do full-on yoga or Pilates, just do a few stretches when you get up in the morning. A new thing I've added to my routine, I'm still experimenting with, but so far I can say very good things about it, is red light therapy. I would encourage people to research red light therapy because the sun has some very healing properties, but we're also afraid of the UV light and the damage to our skin naturally. But there's some healing properties which come from the the near infrared light.
Mm-hmm.
And there's studies that show that it really is very healing. It helps stimulate the mitochondria. It helps reduce inflammation. It helps with aging. It stimulates collagen. And here's a really cool thing. There's some science that I've been reading that when you have chlorophyll in your body while you get red light therapy, it actually generates ATP, which is energy. So I'm experimenting with that as well. So that's something new. I'm bullish on, and I'm testing out today these days. So those would be my tips.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all the informative information that you dropped on us all the way from the east.
Oh, there's so much more. I mean, I could talk about this for days and barely scratch the surface.
We definitely got to get you back on for another chat more about that. Any last parting words you want to impart?
Well, all I would ask people is don't be too overwhelmed by what you don't know. And take baby steps. Just do your own research. Don't think that you're going to, this is the classic story that you don't, every distance you travel is one step at a time. And so don't be angry that you're behind. Just say, I'm going to start now, and every day after this is going to be better. I'm going to teach myself. I'm going to be proud of myself. Pat yourself on the back for making whatever small adjustments and changes that you have made. Because if you don't love yourself and honor yourself, no, other people won't either. Self-love and self-care is probably the most important thing for you, for all of us at every day of the year. So just honor yourself, love yourself, and give yourself a pat in the back every time you do that.
Well said. And that is how we cap it off.